It sounds kind of cliche, but everything is better. And I don't know where to start or where to end because everything's better.
One small invite led to all of this. It's the faithfulness that puts us where we are today. Jesse Jr., we call him JT, and he hates that. One of our neighbors asked him to come to Lifepoint.
I have a best friend, and we've been neighbors since I was 7.
And he went a few times.
What really drew me in was the band. I loved the band.
He was like, "Mom, you have to go. You'll love it." And I was like, "Okay." And so I went to Lifepoint. Of course, my son loves to sit up front, so we sat up front. And there were so many times during the first sermon I went to, it was like, is he talking to me? Because I think he's talking to me.
Afterwards, she told me, she's like, "Yes, I loved it. I want to come back." Mom and I would go. Dad would drive us all to church, and he would sit in the parking lot. He would literally park the car and sit in the parking lot the whole service and just wait for us to get out.
We would ask my husband every Sunday we would wake up. I was like, "Hey, you gonna go with us today?" I might. Well, that didn't happen. That was really sad. It was very disappointing. Sorry. Because I knew if he would go with us, he would change.
A lot of patience and effort on my mom and I's part.
We prayed so much. Every Sunday, it was like Jess and I were like, "Well, let's just keep asking. Let's just keep praying about him, Mom. He's gonna come. He's gonna come." And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think he's ever gonna come."
We would almost feel like God wasn't there because he wasn't moving in our timeline. Compared to where we are now, you can definitely tell we weren't living it beforehand. But a lot of that has to do with where my dad was at the time.
So we get you sitting on that seat and face us. There you go. Cool.
I had a lot of apprehension to start off going back to church. A lot of my childhood resentment still existed within me. And then it was a constant struggle to try to get me to come. But I still had some bad feelings about the church. They kept inviting me.
But finally he gave in.
I was sure it was Easter Sunday, and I might be wrong.
Eventually I came because when I was in the military, I always used to go to church during Easter, Christmas.
We were at the end of service, and Pastor Daniel went through the prayer that if you prayed this prayer and you believe that you're saved, just shoot your hand up. And I didn't look, but I knew he shot his hand up. I felt it to the core of my body. I knew he shot his hand up.
And she shook me. I was like, "What?" And she whispered in my ear, she was like, "He raised his hand." And she's got tears streaming down her face, and I start crying, and everyone's crying, and Dad's crying. And we go up to get his Bible, and I just hugged him.
I actually remember feeling hands on my shoulders, but there was nobody there. So it was a very powerful moment for me.
But it was truly I call them my God moments. It was probably the best day of my life.
I remember looking at my wife and seeing the tears come from her eyes and him hugging on me, and he was weeping too a little bit. But it was very powerful. It was one of those moments that your life has changed for good.
That one simple invite when I was sitting in my friend's basement has changed far more lives than my family's. Lifepoint started off with 50 people who had a vision. For the people who poured faithfulness and so much time and effort and prayer to see how their faithfulness has been rewarded. 50 people grew to 100, and then 100 to 200 and 1,000 and 4,000, but it's more than just the numbers. There's a face, there's a story behind every number.